number 6 Ohio State traveling to South Bend, Indiana to take on number 9 Notre Dame. This is an NBC game, 6:30 p.m. if you're in the Central Time Zone. And guys, from an X's and O's standpoint, to me, this is the best single game on the weekend. You've got top 25 defenses and top 25 offenses, top 5 defenses. So truly both ways, you've got unstoppable forces against immovable objects. And I think that is going to create incredible theater. We're hearing now that Ryan Day might have gotten an extension and a raise on his salary, which would make him one of, if not the highest paid coach in all of college football. That's just an added bonus. But then we also get to watch Sam Hartman go to work. And Hartman obviously is going to be captaining this Notre Dame offense that has really proven itself to be quite handy these first couple weeks of the season. Ohio State's offense finally woke up a week ago, crushed our hearts as Western Kentucky backers. But Trey, let's start with you. What stands out to you about a top 10 matchup where both teams, I think as the season is going along, certainly have their eyes on a national championship as the ultimate goal?
There's a couple things. And, when we were previewing this matchup last year when it was in Columbus, there's a lot of unknowns for Notre Dame, and Ohio State was kind of the known commodity. I feel like that's almost flipped in 2023. I feel like I know what we're going to get with Notre Dame, and I'm still waiting to see what we're going to get with Ohio State. I know the ceiling is extremely high for the Buckeyes, as it always is with all the talent that they have on the field, but I'm still just waiting for it all to click. And we almost saw that last week, I think. We saw the potential of the defense. We've seen the potential of the defense all year, quite frankly. And I think that's been the most pleasant surprise for the Buckeyes this year. They have a physical, fast, attacking defense in the second year under Jim Knowles. That was something that I was kind of highlighting in the preseason, right? It's a very complicated scheme to learn. They looked out of position at times last year, especially down the stretch and against teams like Michigan. But now that they have a year under the belt under Jim Knowles, it finally seems like they know what they're doing. And those fast, athletic players that they have all over the field are just in the right spot at the right time, making plays. And I know they haven't played the most difficult schedule so far. Notre Dame has certainly been more battle-tested so far. But Ohio State's really impressed me with what they've done on the defensive side of the ball. And it finally seems like they're clicking on the offensive side of the ball. Now, Kyle McCord, he might end up being the better college quarterback long-term than Sam Hartman, but Sam Hartman is certainly the more proven commodity at the quarterback position. And Notre Dame has just as good, if not a slightly better defense than Ohio State does. So it's going to be really interesting to see these matchups play out. The one thing I'm concerned about with Notre Dame, I've been one of Sam Hartman's staunchest defenders on this show. I'm going to pat myself on the back for being in on him a little bit before, but we just feel like, for me, I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop with Sam Hartman. He's been dang near perfect so far. And I know that he got, the NC State boogeyman off of his back. He's looked really, really good against the Cream Puffs on their schedule. But what if Sam Hartman has one of those games where he just throws 2 or 3 interceptions? Can Notre Dame overcome that? Can this version of Notre Dame overcome that? This is going to be his biggest test so far. Ohio State, they've been hearing all week that the people saying that Notre Dame is going to get this win at home. I don't know. I'm still a game time decision on this pick. I'm leaning towards the Buckeyes on the road, getting this done somehow, some way, leaning towards, the more long-term known commodity. But it's been a season of the known commodities getting toppled early on. So that leads you to Notre Dame as well.
Garrett, I know you've backed Michigan at many times during this season. And to Trey's point, Ohio State is certainly the more battle-tested team at the highest level over the last couple of years. Now, not this individual team, but just them as a program. There are all these expectations that, they should have beaten Georgia last year. They could have waltzed their way to a national championship by throwing for 800 yards against TCU, but they didn't. And the narrative around Ryan Day seems to be that he can get his team up to win, to play in all of these normal games. But as of late, when the spotlight is brightest, when the pressure is the most intense, his teams crack. Do you see that happening here in week 4 against Notre Dame?
I don't think that they'll crack. I think that this will be a really good, really competitive game. Just looking at some of the things that we were highlighting in this graphic, they I think as all of us expected, clearly we were going to say Notre Dame has the better offense and Ohio State slightly edges them out on defense, right? That's what all of us thought going into this game, right? We all expected this, but no, kind of surprising starts to the season for both teams. We highlighted a couple of the matchups, looking at Sam Hartman versus the Ohio State secondary. Are they, is he going to be able to have some success, like Trey was talking about? What if he throws a couple picks? I don't see that happening. I think so far he's been surgical. He's just been, I mean, money. He's been exactly what you want from a veteran quarterback, and he's let his playmakers do their thing, right? We're seeing, Jalen Greathouse explode in front of our eyes, and Tyree has, been kind of a revelation at wide receiver for them as well. So we're kind of seeing their playmakers start to rise up, something Notre Dame's been missing for a little while. But then, you kind of flip the script and you say, well, look at the other side of the football. Because Ohio State's offense is a thing that we've been expecting to be amazing, just for years and years now, right? We go into the season, we say, well, Ohio State's going to score points, but what are they going to do? And we don't even consider what they're going to be able to accomplish on the football field. And that highlight that we have right there, Travion Henderson versus those Notre Dame linebackers, I think is where this game is made. I think you're going to have mixed success passing the football if you're Ohio State. Not that they're not going to be good, but that Notre Dame has an elite secondary. They're very good on the back end, not as strong on the line of scrimmage, but those linebackers are really, really talented. So if those linebackers can fit their gaps and stop the run game for Ohio State, then I think this is a long night for the Buckeyes. But if Ohio State can do enough in the run game, not, rush for 200 yards, not, score multiple rushing touchdowns and multiple like long breaking runs, but if they can just do enough to take the pressure off of McCord, give him the ability to throw the ball, air it out a little bit, get the safeties back, right? Make the safeties have to collapse a little bit so that they're running with guys and get a little bit more man coverage on the outside. That's where I think Ohio State is able to succeed. Are they going to be able to do it? As of right now, I don't think so. I'm leaning Notre Dame to win this one. I'm going to pick Notre Dame to win this one outright. I do think they're the better team. I did pick them to go to the playoff, and I don't think that happens if they lose to Ohio State here. So I'm going to pick them to beat the Buckeyes in this situation, and I think kind of make a statement because they have to have this, right? This is something I've mentioned multiple times in Notre Dame. They have to pass the eye test. If they don't, they're not going to make the playoff. And so they have to pass the eye test. They're going to have to do it on the biggest stage, and I think that they will against Ohio State this time.
I'm right there with you. I think that when I step back, when I look at, okay, what are both teams putting on the field? Honestly, I think the weakness for both teams seems to be in the trenches a little bit. And for Notre Dame, that's not necessarily saying a whole lot because that offensive line has the potential to be one of the best in the country, right? Joe Alt is maybe the best left tackle in all of college football. I think the interior needs to step up and play a little bit better, but Audric Estime has done a great job running the football for them. Sam Hartman, Trey, as you mentioned, has been nearly perfect. Do I expect them to continue that level of unencumbered excellence on offense? No, I don't. And so that's why I do think this is a low scoring game. I think there's a good chance that this game is, tied or within a field goal until the very last waning seconds. But ultimately, when I sit back and think, who do I trust more in this matchup? It's Notre Dame. It's Notre Dame at home. I'm going to roll with the Fighting Irish plus the 3.5 as well. And I'm so curious to see how this game turns out because as I alluded, there's a rumor that Ryan Day is either near to getting an extension and a raise or that he's already received that. I think either way, come Saturday night on our live show, we're going to be talking about the legacy of Ryan Day either as, okay, someone that can potentially lead this Ohio State team to a national championship and just got a massive monkey off his back, or as the guy that's maybe going down with the ship in a program that is too big, too successful to fail. They're going to have to scapegoat somebody. I think it's going to be a fascinating discussion either way this game turns out. Last thing before we get out of here on this one, just very quickly, Trey, is there any way that this game turns into a blowout? And if so, which team is doing the blowing out?
If it's a blowout, it's going to be Notre Dame in my mind. I don't see, with the defense that Notre Dame is putting on the field and Sam Hartman's big play ability, short of him just, having one of his games and turning the ball over 4 or 5 times, I don't think that Ohio State necessarily blows Notre Dame out. I think if it's a blowout, it's Notre Dame unleashing an offense that we have not seen before in the Fighting Irish before this year. So to me, the more likely team to blow the other out is Notre Dame at home. And I also think that Notre Dame has more ways to win this game. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I feel like Notre Dame could win a shootout or a defensive struggle, and I don't necessarily feel that way about Ohio State. If you look at their history, especially under Ryan Day, they don't do well when things aren't going extremely well on the offensive side of the ball, with the exception of last year's Notre Dame game, ironically enough. So, yeah, Notre Dame has more ways to win this game, and they also, I think, have more likelihood of being a blowout.
I was going to go kind of the other way on this one. I think that if there's a blowout, it's because Ohio State put it all together and finally started living up to what we think they can be. I don't necessarily think they'll do that. Obviously, I'm picking Notre Dame to win the game, but if Kyle McCord comes out and looks like the revelation we think he could be, then they've got the talent, they've got the players across the board, and I think I trust Ohio State's defense to hold Notre Dame to a respectable score. Whereas, if Ohio State clicks, I don't know that I trust anyone's defense to hold them down. I think we saw what Ohio State's defense or offense did to Georgia last year when everything was clicking. They didn't win that game ultimately because their defense didn't show up the same way their offense did, but they scored on a very, very good Georgia Bulldog defense and took that game all the way down to the wire. If they click again, I just don't think there's a defense in the country that can hold them down. I don't think it'll happen this week, but if there's a blowout, I think it's because of that.
Still don't know that I trust Kyle McCord to put it all together. I think it would have to be the perfect scenario and on the road against a very, very salty Notre Dame team. I agree with you, Trey. I think if it does get out of hand, it's a raucous atmosphere in South Bend that just overwhelms the Buckeyes. And we are having a very frank discussion on who is going to be leading Ohio State forward past the 2023 season.
Gracious, how about that?